Michelle here from 3Ps, and today's video is kind of a more of an idea share that I had, and the way I came up with what propelled me to do what I'm sharing is I don't have like any like die cut machines or cuddle bugs or anything like that. But I've been wanting to use some embossing folders or figure out I guess a poor man's way of using some embossing folders. And I apologize in advance if I think I still have some stain on my fingers. I've been doing some tinkering and crafting and stuff, so I tried to scrub my hands real good before I started filming, but it looks like I missed some. But anyway, I was at not Tuesday morning, oh goodness. I was at Hobby Lobby, not Tuesday morning, Hobby Lobby, and they have some of their Paper Studio and Sizzix embossing folders on clearance for like between $2 and $3. This one was, I think, $3. There's some other ones I want to go back and get, but I bought one. I got this one with the little flower border on it. I was thinking I could do something for Mother's Day, and if the project worked out, I was going to go back and then buy some more. So I've seen online where some people use rolling pins, or you can use a rolling pin and roll it over the embossing folder. So I wanted to try that, and I just got this at Dollar Tree. It was $1. It does have some stain on it now, but it was just $1. And I got this embossing folder, which was $3. And I tried a couple different techniques of different things that I've seen online. One was, these are all my trial and errors that I want to kind of share, was spraying it with water. I saw one lady's video where she sprayed the entire folder with water and then rolled the paper with the rolling pin, and it just made the paper really wet and kind of soggy looking, and I didn't care for that. So I tried different mediums, different ideas, and what I ended up going with was actually a bottle of hairspray. This I got at Dollar Tree. It was $1, and I like the spray bottle kind because you can open it and pour it out if you need it, versus like an aerosol or something like that. The thing I like about the hairspray versus water is hairspray like almost evaporates. You could probably use some rubbing alcohol as well. I haven't tried that yet, but rubbing alcohol is probably going to dry about as fast as a bottle of hairspray. And I got the unscented kind, so and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But this is one where I actually sprayed the folder with some, I guess, Glimmer Mist spray that I made myself using hairspray and some eyeshadow that I got at Dollar Tree. Got this purple one. It's the LA Colors, and it's the loose kind that you can, tap it out and dump it. But you could probably just take a regular eyeshadow and just crush it up or something if you didn't want to buy these. Haven't tried that yet either. But so I ended up making my own, and literally this is like 10% eyeshadow and 90% hairspray, and I just shake it. That's all that's in here. Hairspray and eyeshadow, and that's all that's in it. So and I sprayed the paper, and I mean, it gave it like a sheen, but I didn't like the way it kind of like warped the paper. I think it was just a little too wet. And this one here is where I tried doing a dry roll, and then I just used eyeshadow and rubbed it in while it was dry, just rubbed it into the paper. It did okay, but it's not very, very defined. So that one didn't turn out all that great. But here's what they look like, so you can kind of see that. On this one here, same idea, except I used an actual, I used Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. I got this on clearance. It wasn't $2.50. It was like $1.50 or something like that at Tuesday morning. And I used this, and I sprayed the folder. I actually sprayed the entire folder with the Glimmer Mist, and that's how that turned out. And I wasn't real happy with that either. It's kind of a hot mess, and it dries all wrinkly and not very, I didn't like that at all. Now this one here is where I just sprayed, I don't know if you can even see that on this white paper. You can see the embossing right here. This is where, what I did on this one is I took my hairspray, just regular hairspray, and I just sprayed, ooh, not the camera. I just sprayed the flowers itself right here. And actually, no, I didn't spray it. What I did, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I ended up doing was I took a, this little medicine measuring cup that I had left over from like a bottle of NyQuil or something. Anyway, it was in my medicine cabinet. And I basically just pour it out, take the cap off the hairspray, and then just, you know, pour you a little bit into the cup. And then I took a makeup sponge, which I found to be kind of the easiest. You might have something else. And then I just took it and dunked it, you know, saturated the sponge, and then took the sponge and rubbed it into, in this particular folder, because it's got detailed flowers, I just rubbed it over the flowers just to saturate where I want the impression and not the entire folder. So, and then while it was, and I did both sides. I did this side and this side, and then I put it in between the paper. You know, I put the paper in the folder, and I just took my rolling pin and I just rolled over it a few times. And it got it to where it softened the paper to where it didn't really warp it all that bad, but it still gave, it's hard to see on white paper, but kind of gave a nice impression there from the embossing folder. So I like, that's kind of what I've been going with, is just wetting with the hairspray the parts that I want to get the impression, not the entire folder. So that's how that turned out. Here's some other ones that I mess around with. This is actually white, because I don't have any embossing powders either. So like I said, I'm trying to do this without having to spend a lot of money. And this is actually white eyeshadow that I got at Dollar Tree. And that's what this is right here, where I just took the eyeshadow, and while the paper, I guess, was still a little damp from the hairspray before it dries completely, and I just rubbed it over it. I took the eyeshadow, and I just dumped it onto a little bit onto the paper, and then I took a clean, you know, another makeup sponge and rubbed in the eyeshadow into the impression. And so the eyeshadow clings to where you sprayed, and it stays there in the highlighted portions. So it kind of gives it that embossed look without, you know, I didn't use any like heat gun or nothing like that. This is just straight, I rubbed in the eyeshadow into the crevices and got the impression like that. And this one was a hot mess. This is one again where I sprayed the folder with the hairspray. You can see all the little splotches, and then I rubbed it down with some purple eyeshadow, and it made a hot mess. So that didn't turn out too good. But this actually turned out pretty nice, I think. This is an image that I could probably trim out this paper and just use the borders. You know, use this as some kind of border on a card or something. You know, something like that. So I thought that turned out pretty cool looking. Right, and then here's another one. I did a purple paper with the white again, and I think that looks pretty neat looking. And this is where I just wet the folder, the image, the impressions. Like I just did the flowers, and I wet them down with my sponge, you know, dumping it in the hairspray. So I just dipped it in the hairspray and rubbed down the folder itself and rolled it with my rolling pin. I think that looks pretty neat looking. So there's that one. There's another one where I worked on that one too. Didn't turn out quite as well. This is one of those things that you just kind of have to kind of play around a little bit. Now this is pretty decent heavy duty cardstock. This isn't paper. This is actual impressions on a thicker cardstock. So you can do that. But if you have, you know, maybe you have arthritis or something, and you might have a hard time rolling, you know, a rolling pin, you can use thinner materials like copy paper or construction paper, you know, something like that. Tissue paper is probably a little too thin. I don't think it'll hold an impression. It'll probably rip and tear after it gets wet. But you don't have to use cardstock itself. You could use a thinner a paper product if you wanted to. Now, here's another one now this one, I did a dry roll on it. I didn't use hairspray or anything like that. What I did is I inked up. Let me pour this hairspray back in the bottle before I dump it all over my table. Okay. Put the cap back on that. Now what I did on these was I took an ink pad, one of my cheapy ones. I didn't use a permanent, like a stays on ink or something like that, because I want to be able to clean the folder. So what I did is I took some ink and I just dry tapped the image. You know, dry tapped the top of the plate here. I didn't do top and bottom because you don't need the bottom part. Just the top part where it actually is going to press into the paper. And I dry rubbed on some ink and then rolled that into the paper. Now, it might not necessarily emboss the emboss the paper, but it gave me a very huge, almost a large stamp. It almost makes this a very large background stamp. So, and I rolled that out. So I took my folder, and let me find a piece here and I'll show you really quick what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness, I'm making such a mess. I'll use this black ink here. Okay, so I just took my ink pad and I just did like this. Now this folder does have some eyeshadow red. I haven't cleaned it very well, so I'm just doing this to show you guys how you can rub in the ink onto the image like this. Now if you've got, I haven't tried other folders. I haven't tried ones that are like all dots, or I'm actually going to Hobby Lobby today to pick up some supplies that I'm running out of. And while I'm there, I'm going to see if they got any more on clearance. I'm going to try a couple different patterns. So you just kind of ink up the folder like that. Saturate it as much as you want. You can use different colors. I just got that paper wet. Let me see. Do I have a piece I haven't used yet? Doesn't look like it. Let me grab a piece of paper. Sorry about that. All right, I got this pink piece here. I'll use this pink piece. And so then you would just put it in your folder. And then just take your rolling pin and roll it over the image. And I'm not putting down a whole lot of pressure onto this. I'm just gently rolling across the paper. Now this is dry. I didn't spray it. It's not wet. This is just a dry roll. And I'm using kind of low to moderate pressure. Nothing real heavy. And you might have to roll it a few times just to get a nice impression. Looks like I have, my mat's wet. That's why the paper got wet. I think I spilled a little hairspray there on my mat. That'll dry. Alright, so that's that. And I didn't press very hard. This is not pressing very hard. And I probably could have inked it up a little better. But what it did is it gave me a pretty big, almost like a background stamp impression. Now, I could have put more ink or pressed it a little harder, like I did on this one. And so then I colored this in with color pencils. And that's how I did this. I did color pencils. So that's one idea that you could do. And obviously the harder you press or the more ink you apply, the better the impression. And I didn't press hardly at all. I didn't press very hard. So I probably could have stood up and put my weight on the rolling pin and it would have made a deeper impression. So, and then, you know, obviously I got to clean my folder now. But if you want some nice background stamps on the cheap, because those large stamps, they can run $20. You can always get you some embossing folders, the ones that have, you know, it's all dots or it's all geometric, and stamp it up and roll it with a rolling pin, and there, you got a very large stamp. So that was one idea, and here's a couple more on how they turned out. Now this one here is the same idea as what I just showed you, but I ended up wetting this. This is actually, I sprayed it. Well, I inked it and then I sprayed it. So it gave it this effect. Let me try that one. Let me get another piece of paper here. Now I'm using just a cheap little black, I think Dollar Tree has some ink pads as well. Some of the Dollar Trees. So, you know, if you don't want to use your expensive inks, that way, if, you know, something gets, like I got glitter on this ink pad, then it'll be okay. All right, so that's all done. And then what I did is I'm going to take the spray. I don't know why I just shook that, but I took some hairspray. I'm just going to kind of lightly spray the flowers. Okay. And I take my paper. Make some space here. I take my paper and I'm going to stick it in the folder. Like that, and press it down. Then again, take my rolling pin. And this will give you that splattered, artsy, kind of deco look to your image. Now this I am pressing down just a little bit. I'm hoping to get a clear image this time. So you just roll this, you know, maybe 10 times, 5 to 10 times back and forth, concentrating on certain areas, depending on your pattern. Like I'm trying to get the image of the flowers. But if you're using like a geometric pattern or just a bunch of dots, you might not want, you know, you might not need to press so hard because it's a smaller impression. So then what you're left with is something that looks like this is your impression. And now my folder is good and dirty. Wipe this up just a little bit. Okay, so then what you're left with is something that looks like this, which is how I got this here. Of course, it's going to vary each time, and my paper is a little bit wet. Now, if you want to use a hairdryer to kind of go ahead and dry it off, or, you know, put it in front of a fan to kind of dry off the paper a little bit, you know, so you can go ahead and color it. And then I colored it in with Sharpies. This is using Sharpie markers. So once your image is a little bit dry, it dries pretty quick because you use hairspray and not water. Or maybe even rubbing alcohol. I don't know. Rubbing alcohol might evaporate pretty quick. And then you would just simply take, you know, some kind of marker, or you could even use colored pencils. And then you would just color in your images. If you want to. Like I said, if you're using something that doesn't have you know, flowers. But I kind of want the flowers to stand out. So it gives it, it's got texture and color, and it looks, I think it looks pretty neat. So then you would go around and fill this in the way that you want to. So, and I'll probably finish this later, fill it in with some blue flowers. This has also got some leaves on it. And take your green Sharpie, like right here is a leaf. So now we're just color in the leaf here. And you just lightly color over it because it is a raised image. Like this. And I would finish coloring that all over. And then you could use this to layer up a card, or maybe a background to a photo, or you can make wall art out of this. You could cut this out, mat it, and maybe put a nice flower embellishment in the middle. You know, or something that's, you know, a quote. You could take a quote sticker, put that in the middle that says, you know, live, life, love, or, you know, whatever quotes that you like. Frame it up, and you've got your own wall art. You know, you made it yourself. You know, something pretty. And so that's this here. That's how that's what this gets you. So again, that was spraying inking it, spraying it, rolling it. So that was that idea. Here's another one that I did that didn't quite turn out like I wanted it to. I rolled out this image, and then I took my colored pencils and went over it, and it didn't turn out quite like I wanted it to. And then the first one that I kind of did was this one, and this is a dry rolled image. All right, so I've cleaned and dried my folder, and so now I'm going to take a plain piece of paper. And this is just a dry roll. Actually, that paper It's got some wet spots. Let me get a dry piece. Oh my goodness, I'll get this together eventually. Let's see. I'll use a blue piece like I did on that one. Show you all what I did. Okay, so I just took a dry piece of paper. There's no spray, no nothing, just the paper in the folder. And I used my rolling pin. And you kind of, when it's dry, you do have to press kind of hard. So, it looks like my folder's still a little wet. Shoot. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. But you would do this dry. You know, you might have to put a book on top. You can, if you need to, you can use like a little cutting mat or board. I got these at Dollar Tree. They have them in different shapes. I think they had strawberries, apples, lemon. And you can, you know, if you need a hard surface to help you press down, to roll evenly, you can do that. Maybe put it between two heavy books. But you would just keep rolling for however many times. And hopefully this will give a good enough impression. It's not quite deep enough. Let me try again. I'll stand up this time to roll it. So, putting all my weight on it. Now this one might not be very easy for some people. You know, obviously this is a lot easier if you have a machine to do it, but I don't have that kind of cash, so I'm going to do it this way. Right? Plus it's kind of fun to you know, come up with different ideas, different ways of using everyday stuff to create art. Whoa, I just knocked my hairspray on the floor. Whoops. Anyway. All right, that's a little better, but I'm gonna go over both of them. And then what you can do, man, I'm dropping everything. This one here, what I did is I took the eyeshadow, took this purple one, and just kind of dumped it onto the paper. I'll use both sides. Okay. I grabbed me a makeup sponge and just kind of smeared it around the paper. The impressions aren't as deep as I would like, but maybe this will give you an idea. You know, you can obviously work on this, try this yourself. I don't know if you can see that. See the raised impression? And I used the purple to kind of give it a kind of little bit of a color to it, like a two-tone almost, with the blue and the purple. You could do white and purple. The white eyeshadow on black or gray paper, dark blue, shows up really good. So there's that. Can you see that? That impression right there? So, yeah. And then once I did this, got that impression with the eyeshadow, I went back with some colored pencils and colored in the flowers. So, swear to goodness, I am like a bull in a china shop right now. I'm knocking down everything. Okay, and then you would go back and I went back and kind of colored in the petals with my colored pencil. Like this. Over the embossed image. So it kind of starts to take shape, kind of starts to look like a flower. And I just went over it with colored pencils, coloring in the petals. You would do the same thing on the leaves, using my green pencil, going over the leaves. Now this did take me a little bit of time to, you know, see the image, color it in. I took my time. I went pretty slow on that one, coloring in the flowers on this here. So this did take me a little bit of time to color in, but that's how I did this one. And like I said, it was a dry image, you know, I dry rolled on it, no hairspray or nothing. I rubbed in the eyeshadow onto the paper, and it brought up the images, and then I just used colored pencils to color in the flowers and the petals and stuff. So yeah, that's how that turned. One more idea that you can use is coffee filters. This is the last idea that I've been tinkering with. I just bought a cheapo pack of coffee filters. And you can use coffee filters to imprint images if you want to cut out the image. So I'm going to show you that one really quick, how that turns out. Again, using some hairspray. Now, if you don't want to pour out the hairspray into a cup, I mean, I just found that to be easier. You can always just, you know, wet, and see, I just spilt it. So maybe that's why you don't want to do it that way. Let's try a different one. So I would just wet the folder, wet the hairspray where I want it. And this one is good and saturated thing here. Let's try that again without spilling it. Yeah. Like I said, I'm wetting the top and the bottom of the folder. And just on the flowers, not the center or anything like that. So you wet that. Okay. So got that good and saturated. And then what you can use are coffee filters. Now you can cut the coffee filter in half, you know, cut off the edges if you want to. I'm just going to slide the folder into the coffee filter. Now for this one, it doesn't, you can't use the whole image, like it doesn't cover the whole entire thing, but that's okay. And I'm going to press that down. Again, using my rolling pin, roll over the image that I want the impression of. The coffee filters, you can use white ones. In this one, I picked up some brown ones, but you could always use the white coffee filters, and then you can color them with eyeshadow or colored pencils or whatever medium you want to use. Okay, hope this comes out good. All right. So can you see that? The image on the coffee filter. So that also is an idea for a cheap material that you can use. Do one more, cut off the back of this here. A cheap material that you can use. And then if you want to use that image as a background or an embellishment or something like that. Okay. I think I am going to pour it out into this cup though. Just makes it easier to use. Pour a little bit out. Yeah. I just got this pack of makeup sponges. Okay, and then I'm just going to dunk it into the thing. This. I'm just going to wet these flowers. This. Get them good and saturated. That. I'm going to wet this side too. Now with the coffee filter, because it only takes up like half of it, you know, in this case, I'm only going to get one corner of the image. But it's still something you can use. It's still an idea. I'm going to place that right there. Pressing down my folder, and I'm going to roll that out again. Okay. All right. And I'm not pressing very hard at all. Can you see that? I got a little too wet, but can you see with the flower there? And then you can take this and you can either color it, you can, you know, highlight it with some eyeshadow if you want. You can then take this eyeshadow here, tapping just a little bit down on the image. That side's wet. And then taking a sponge and then just doing this. Okay. So then you've got something that looks like that. A little image. You know, and you can take this and, you know, I don't know, come up with all kinds of ideas. And what I'm doing with this here, or is my plan, is I plan on doing some Mother's Day cards. Here's one that I did in pink. This is on a coffee filter. And I just trimmed out the coffee filter and put it on this card. I haven't finished these yet. I got some little things I want to put on the birdhouses. But this is the start of some of my Mother's Day cards. I've only got 2 right now. So I got this one. And got one that looks like this. I did this one in purple, where I just colored them in. Now these are done with Sharpies. On a white coffee filter, you could probably use colored pencils and not Sharpies. So this is kind of an idea of something you could do. You know, like I said, these are some Mother's Day cards I'm working on. I'm just getting started on this stuff. I'm a little behind. I had to work some extra hours at work the last couple weeks, and I haven't really had a chance to craft like I wanted to. So that's the rundown of today's video. It's basically some ideas that you can use to create some art pieces, like art projects for cards using embossing folders. This image looks really good, I think. I think this is kind of neat with the ink and the spray and all of that. You know, how this turned out, and then the one with I did with the colored pencils. Let me grab that one. Oh, goodness. So here's this one, like I said, with the dry rub, and I colored it in. So I think that turned out pretty neat. Will make a pretty neat looking card. And I think this would look really cool as like a photo frame or an art frame. Take this, add a photo or a quote, and put it in a little photo, you know, mat it up and stuff. That would look kind of neat. But it's very, this one is very textured. You can feel the embossing, and it's really kind of cool. So if you've got some embossing folders and you would try something new, a little bit different, you can give this a try. See how it turns out. I do highly recommend using a hairspray, and like I said, I haven't tried rubbing alcohol yet. That might be an idea. Just the water for me, a lot of the videos I watched, they were using water, and that was just, the paper was too soggy and it was taking it way too long to dry. In a lot of cases it warped the paper, and I just didn't care for that. So get you some hairspray, some eyeshadows. All I've got right now is some purple and this white. You can make use some homemade glimmer sprays. This is really cheap. Like I said, it's literally just hairspray and eyeshadow. You can make it as deep as you want it. And I actually like the way this sprays a lot better than the one I actually bought. This Tattered Angels, it comes out, I don't know, it's really heavy. But anyway, so there's that. The good thing about this one, this brown one that I have, it actually makes a very good stain on the, let me show you really quick. That's what I use to stain these birdhouses. These are wood veneer birdhouses that I got on clearance at Michael's for like 19 cents. And I stained them with the Glimmer Mist. I just took my sponge, you know, put a little on the sponge and rubbed it in. I didn't spray it, I just rubbed it in. And it created a pretty nice stain, and it gives it, you can't really see it on camera, I don't know, but it gives a sheen to the birdhouses. So that's actually one thing you can do with those sprays. So anyway, try this out. Get you an embossing folder. If you've got a rolling pin, if not, Dollar Tree had this one. I got it for $1. I got the little this little cutting board I also got at Dollar Tree. Might use that as a hard surface to roll on. And just try it out. Try out different embossing folders. I'm going to go back to Hobby Lobby today and see if they have any more on clearance and try some as background stamps. They had some that were geometric and had dots and things, so I'm going to try that out. So anyway, sorry for the lengthy video. Hope you guys don't mind. And let me know how yours turns out. Let me know if you give this a try, what kind of images and little art pieces that you can come up with. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and y'all have a great day now. Bye-bye.